Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey and Daytona, Florida. So today I want to talk about the 309 custom audio amplifier bracket for the 2024 and up Road Glide. So anybody that knows us and follows us knows that we do the most 2024s out of everybody. When the bike first came out, I bought a brand new CVO so I could tear it apart and figure out what fits, what doesn't fit. We've done tons and tons of installs. We've done a bunch of videos on these bikes. I know these bikes really well. There's a lot of people, not a lot of people, there's a handful of people that make amp racks for these bikes. The problem with these amp racks is you can only fit one amplifier because the bracket holds the factory amplifier, and then it allows you flatten out the headlight, allows you to do one large amplifier like a Sound Digital 2400 or a MMATS 2600 or a BDA 2000 by Cicada. Allows you to do a massive 4-channel amplifier. The reason we don't use these racks is because for most of our builds we do 2 amplifiers. So then we'll shave the headlight, modify the radio bracket, then we'll do 2 amplifiers side by side. The difference with the 309 rack is they've figured out a way to modify the factory bracket, flip the factory amplifier upside down and tuck it behind the headlight, and that gives you all that space. So now you can do 2 medium-sized amplifiers. You can't do 2 large amplifiers, but you do 2 small footprint, like 2 Sound Digital 800s, 2 FLX 700s, or 2 medium-sized. So you can do 2 1400s from Cicada. You could do a 1400 and a 1600 from Cicada. You could do a Sound Digital 1600 and 800. You can do a Sound Digital 1600 and 1200. So moving that factory amplifier underneath frees up about an extra 3 inches. And that's the key to getting 2 amplifiers, because we normally stack the amplifiers this way. With this rack, we're able to put them this way, and it gives us a lot more space. So I did a couple of, in the video I actually placed a Sound Digital Evo X2 1600 and 800, which is the same thing that the guys 309 did. I also did a Cicada 1400 and FLX 700. So it gives you a ton of flexibility, especially our Stage 3. These are the amplifiers that we use in our Stage 3 high power, so it works really well. You can do a 1600 on the bass, and then you can do an 800 on the highs, or a 1600 and a 1400, 1600. It gives you a lot of flexibility. You do have to modify the headlight, you do have to modify the radio bracket, but that's no different from the 15 through 23 Road Glide when you're doing a Lex rack, and it's no different from 14 through 23 Street Glide when you're doing a Lex rack. You have to modify, on the Street Glide, you have to modify the pocket to get the amplifier bracket to go in. On the Road Glide, you have to cut the factory radio bracket and shave the 2 headlight tabs for the Lex racks to slide in. So this is no different. Modify the headlight, modify the radio bracket, and then you can fit 2 amplifiers. They also made a really slick powder-coated metal bracket that holds the fuse holder in place under the brake side cover. It's great for us, and we're going to be using these because that's where we put our fuse holder anyway. So it just gives you a nice way to secure it. Great job figuring that out, guys. Super easy to install. It's just 2 bolts to you move one of the sensors, slide the bracket in, and then you do have to shave a little tab off and then bolt it back down, and then it holds the fuse holder securely, nice and straight at a right angle. It's really nice. So the video is self-explanatory. If you're willing to modify your headlight on your brand new bike, you can get 2 amplifiers in there with the factory amp still in there. Then everybody keeps talking about the A to B interface that's going to be coming out. Well, when the A to B interface comes out, it gives you even more space because it's going to be smaller than the factory amp, but you're still going to need a place to put it, and then this rack still gives you more room. So if you're not going to flip if you want to do the A to B interface, which there should be at least, currently there's only 1 out, there should be at least 4 of them out by February. So if you do the A to B interface and you want to do 2 large amplifiers, this is still a great way to do it, because you can flip the A to B interface, put it exactly where we're putting the factory amplifier, bolt the plate in place, and then it gives you room for 2 medium-sized amplifiers or 1 large amplifier or 2 small amplifiers. So whether you go with the A to B interface or not, unless you're going to do 1 single small amplifier, this solution allows you to go to bigger amplifiers, which we've been doing on the 14 through 23 for the past 10 years. So really good product. All the amp racks on the market are really good. They all have their benefits, and they all require modification of the headlight and modification of the radio bracket. But it's the only way to securely hold the amplifier in place and securely hold the factory amplifier in place. So we've used all of them. This, personally for us, for what we do, this is the one that I like the most for us. And it's very similar to what we've been doing, except the difference is we're holding the amplifiers in place with Velcro, and we're holding the factory amplifier in place with Velcro. This solution allows you to screw everything down. The reason we weren't using the rack previously for our 2 amp installs is just adding that 1/4-inch plate above the headlight would not allow the fairing to clear. So in my personal CVO, when I did it the first time, I had a Sound Digital 3000 and a Sound Digital 800.4 originally, and it was barely fit, and that's with the amplifier directly sitting on the headlight. Even the Velcro that I used originally was too thick, so I had to go with thinner double-sided tape to get everything to close and all the fairing bolts to go in. So that's why it wasn't an option for me to go with any of the amp racks, because just adding that small piece of metal underneath would bring the amplifiers high enough to where the fairing would not close. These Road Glides look like they have a lot of room in the fairing, but it's very deceiving. The fairing dips down and there's not a lot of space in there. It's wide, but there's absolutely no height. So this is a great solution for us, because since the amplifiers aren't stacked and they sit side by side, we can fit 2 medium-sized amplifiers, which is what we normally do for our stage 2 and stage 3 builds. So this is going to be perfect for us. So great solution. Thank you guys at 309 Custom Audio, and check out the video. If you have any questions, reach out to us or reach out to them. They are located in Monmouth, Illinois. 309 Custom Audio. Okay, so this is before. It already has our stage 1 upgrade. So now we're gonna upgrade it. We're gonna cut the rack and install the 309 custom bracket so we can install 2 amplifiers in here. So we're gonna strip it down, remove the rack, and get it prepped. All right, we're gonna start by removing all 4 of these tabs and shaving this completely flat. Okay, so we're about to start cutting on the rack. We're gonna take it down to this weld right here. So it's gonna open up a cavity so the factory amp can flip upside down and sit down in this cavity. So this is what the bracket looks like after it's been cut and reinstalled. So the whole front portion of the bracket is cut. The side is cut here, not at this line, at this line. And then we notched it a little bit here so the amp tray would fit in better. It's about a 1-inch notch. So you cut along here, take the front part of the bracket off. Then you cut along the back here, 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 making sure not to cut the welds. You don't want to cut the weld here, or else you lose support here to here. So you trim here, then you go along this bottom and take the whole bottom of the tray out. Cut along here, here, and here. This is exactly what it looks like. The kit ships with these 2 brackets to support the headlight. One goes on that side, through that hole. One goes on this side, line it up with that hole down there. And it's gonna support the top of the headlight. There you have the bracket installed using the factory headlight bolt that you won't need anymore because you cut those tabs off. There it is, both sides. Now we'll slide the headlight in. Make sure you do not install the brackets upside down like I did the first time. The nut side faces down. That way the bracket can come up and over the headlight and line up with these 2 screw holes. So, nut side down, bracket side up. So these 2 Phillips head screws are going to be your new headlight supports on both sides. Make sure it lines up with the bracket, unscrew the screws, slide it in, screw the screws back down. So you install the 2 lower headlight bolts, tighten them up, and then you'll see that the bracket lines up with those 2 screws, that side and that side, so you can push up on the headlight, screw those in. Make sure you leave that bolt nice and loose so you can move the bracket around and line it up. I got the back screw in, putting the front screw in now. And the key to getting this to go is making sure that back bolt is loose. That side's done. Now we're gonna go ahead and tighten those 2 inside screws. Okay, so this is what it should look like. Your headlight's bolted in. The top is shaved completely flat. Make sure you don't break through the plastic and cause a water leak. So as you can see, all the plastic's intact. We shaved about 1 inch in on both sides. That way the rack can slide in this way. Now let's go get the rack. So what's nice about this bracket is you cut off the main support of the front of the bracket, so that makes it weak. When you slide this bracket in, now you see why we notched this a little bit to make sure this didn't hit. Now you're tying the support back in and making the front strong again, because you're adding material back in. It bolts in here and it bolts in here. So you just line the bolt hole up, run your 1/4-20 bolts through there, flip your amplifier upside down, mount it down here and here. We're gonna do that next. The headlight bolts are 1/4-20, so if you get yourself a 1/4-20 nut, you could use the headlight bolt, put a nut on it to secure the bracket in place. Here we have an 804 and a 1600.1 Sound Digital Evo X2. We already knew that was going to fit because 309 showed it in their install pics. Now we're going to try a couple of other configurations, see what else we can get to fit on there. There's plenty of space for the wiring, and there you can see the factory amplifier. I'm going to test fit the fairing to make sure everything clears. Okay, we already knew it would clear because we're using an 800 and a 1600. Let's try a couple of different amps. Cicada FLX 1400 and FLX 700 also fit perfectly. They've also made this beautiful powder coated metal fuse block holder. You remove this sensor, install the fuse block holder, and then reinstall the sensor with the same hardware. Use a 3/16 Allen key to remove the 2 Allen head bolts. Then there's this little tab that you have to grind off to get the bracket to slide all the way in. I get my grinder in there, so I switch the multi-tool. Nice and flat. Bracket fits in perfectly now. Our NVS audio 2-way fuse holder fits in perfectly. So we're gonna do a 0 gauge in from the battery, and then a 4 gauge up to the fairing, and an 8 gauge up to the fairing. Really nice job on this fuse holder. You could also do 4 gauge in and 2 8 gauge up, or 4 gauge in and 4 gauge up. It's up to you. Perfect fit. Here's the finished product. 1600.1, 800.4, ARC Audio PSM Pro DSP. Headlight bolted here, 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 and here.